escaping the realm of darkness. The Paranormal Guys are on a quest to find the answers to the hard questions of where the normal meets the paranormal and the weird, and where the natural meets the unnatural. So grab your holy water, call your mama, and get ready for the Paranormal Guys podcast.
Hello, everyone. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Can you believe it's Halloween already?
Yeah, it's Halloween already, Steve. Did you get some candy today?
Yeah, I did. I got the good stuff, the chocolate. You know, I like the chocolate.
You know, I that's what I usually like. You know, like my wife, she likes those, you know, like those the sugary ones. You know, the ones that are the Swedish fish and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good old fashioned Snickers bar, man.
Yeah. Did you ever go trick or treating and then, or have trick or treaters come to your door, and then if you don't have the good stuff, they kind of give you an attitude?
Yeah. Do you remember having shaving cream fights?
Yeah, and then throwing the rotten eggs. Yeah.
We would sit in the park. I remember the park that we lived by. Afterwards, you did all your trick or treating. We'd all go to the park, and everybody'd have these things of Barbasol shaving cream. You know, and I have to be honest with you, a lot of people would be stealing them. And they would take them from a local store that was called Edmar, and they would bring them over to the park district, and everybody would just go crazy. And then you had to go home to the poor mom, and she'd see her kid with all this Barbasol shaving cream all over them, and she has to yell at you, because I remember I got yelled at a lot, you know. Mm-hmm. She said, "Take off all your clothes. So I didn't put it all in the wash, you little son of a." And I'd be like, "Sorry, Ma. Let's go to bed. Let's go to bed."
Your mom, she put up with a lot.
What's that?
Your mom put up with a lot with you, I'm sure.
Yeah, you know, my mom raised 3 boys, so you know, It was what it was. You know, we were young and dumb. You know, it's just what it was. But I tell you, when I was younger, though, I really enjoyed. You know, you go to that one house that had those big candy bars.
Right.
You know, every now and then there was that one person on the block that you knew they had money. So,
oh yeah,
and they bought the real good stuff, man. It wasn't a little bag of M&Ms, no sir. It was a big candy bar, you know, like a big 3 Musketeers or something, you know.
Yeah. You ever go to like the big fancy house on the block, and then they got the cheap candy?
Well, you know what? There was no, to be honest with you, Steve, there was no big fancy house where I grew up.
Oh,
I mean, well, we knew who kind of had some money, you know, blah, blah, blah. What was your favorite costume growing up?
Oh, Michael Myers. Because I could just stand there and just walk real slow, and it freaked people out. Especially in the middle of the night on the busy street with the cars. You know, they would just freak out, all the drunks. It was awesome.
I remember the old Ben Cooper costumes that you would get. You remember you would go to a place called Woolworth.
Oh, Woolworth! That was a long time ago.
Yeah, dude. You would go to a store called Woolworths, or I don't know,
store.
Woolworth or Woolworths, and but you would find Ben Cooper costumes.
Okay,
and it'd be like Spider-Man or Superman or the Bionic Man. And I remember I had a Batman one. I had SWAT. You remember the old TV show SWAT? I don't know if you remember that show.
I remember, but I don't know if I watched it.
Yeah, I had that. I have a good memory of some of these things. And I remember going and getting the old Ben Cooper costumes. You couldn't breathe through these plastic masks that they had on.
No.
You can find them online, you know, like you can go to someone like an eBay. You can find them. They're worth a lot of money.
Those are scary masks. They were cheap, but they're, you know, some of them were kind of scary looking.
Yeah, I remember when my mom moved from the house that we all grew up on, I went up in the attic and I found 2 Ben Cooper costumes. I said, "Oh my God." I said, "This is awesome." I go, "I got to grab these." So I grabbed them, I took them, and I kept them. I don't even know what I did with them, to be honest with you, but I grabbed the Ben Cooper costumes. Those were the stuff that's what kept me as memories, was the old Ben Cooper costumes, you know, like Spider-Man and Superman and all that good stuff. But you had the Michael Myers. Mm-hmm. But to everybody, you know, every generation is a little bit different. Everybody's got their own little thing. But we want to wish everybody a happy Halloween, you know,
yes,
and have a good time. Don't use a whole bunch of Barbasol because Ma's going to get mad.
And don't use your dad's. Look, guys, your dad needs to shave tomorrow. Okay, don't use up all his Barbasol, because then he's going to have to use your mom's leg shaving cream, and then he's going to smell like a lady, and your mom's going to have hairy legs because he's going to use it all. So look, don't use like your mom and dad's shaving cream. Go and steal it. No, don't steal it. Go and buy it from the store like an adult.
Well, don't you like a hairy-legged woman there, Steve?
Yeah, I don't want to get into that here.
It's not like a good hairy-legged woman, let me tell you. But yeah, everybody, welcome to the Paranormal Guys podcast. I'm your one of your hosts, Neal Gibbons, and this is my other host.
Yep,
my paranormal buddy, Stephen Weber.
Yep, so, I am your host, your other host.
You're the other host, and we have a concept here. This is, I believe, this is our third episode of doing the Paranormal Guys podcast. Mm-hmm. We've done podcasts before, but we want to do this one. This will be our main one that we're going to do, and we're going to try to hold on to this one for a long time. And what we do is we delve into a lot of things, anything from the supernatural, the paranormal, to cryptids, to UFOs. And this is our bonus episode for Halloween, and we have Miss Laura González who's going to be on today. We're going to talk about why not. Let's talk about the Day of the Dead, Steve.
Yeah.
It's Halloween. The Day of the Dead is going to be celebrated on November 2nd and 3rd. And it's a celebration of the dead, which originally derived, I believe, in Mexico. And she's going to tell us more about the origins and stuff like that. That's why we have on awesome guests like Laura, who's going to be able to do that.
Yeah, I'm super interested in that. My daughter had me watch a Disney, I think, no, it was Pixar, Coco.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
You seen that one?
Yeah.
So
I didn't watch it all the way through. I'm familiar with it. Let's put it that way. I'm familiar with it.
That's about all I know.
Yeah.
So I'm real interested in hearing more today, and I have some questions, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. And it's good to sometimes go into these a little bit blind, because then you're listening and you get that all in your head and you start learning. And that's one of the other reasons why we do this is, for listeners who haven't heard certain subjects or something like this, it's good that you listen to it. That way you learn different cultures, you learn different things that are going on other than just, like Casper the Friendly Ghost or the normal things, there are certain hauntings like Amityville that you've always heard of. You hear some different things. So we try to be a broader mind on a lot of things here at the Paranormal Guys podcast.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. That's how we get down. That's what we do. It's how we get down, brother.
It's how we roll.
It's how we roll. And speaking of roll, why don't we get into the news, young Steven?
Let's do that.
Today.
All right, here we go.
I believe we're going to be talking about a man coming out of a casket. Man emerges from casket 2 days after being declared dead. Now, I've heard of these things before, Steve, where, people just all of a sudden come out of caskets. And the story is out of Nigeria. So a lot of these third world countries, they don't use embalming fluids, I don't believe, or he wouldn't be coming out. He wouldn't be coming out of a casket. So let's start with the story. In a wild story out of Nigeria, a man was declared dead and set to be buried when suddenly came back to life. 2 days later, crawled out of his casket and recounted a vivid near-death experience wherein he visited heaven. We suddenly saw the casket shaking and eventually fell, and my father woke up to the surprise of many people in the village. Jacob recalled. The sight of Amadou, inexplicably alive again, understandably shook the mourners. His son observed a lot of the men and women who have gathered ran away, believing that it was his ghost. Ooh. Jacob tentatively approached his father and soon realized that he was still alive. Shaken by whatever he experienced, and as such, he initially remained silent. It was not until a few days later that Amadou recounted what had occurred, and is a true, breathtaking account. So a guy came out. Now, this is not the first time, that things like that. You've heard of stories like this before, right, Steve?
Yeah, I have. And, usually it's 3 days, though, right? And then they come back. But he came back after 2. So
I think we're getting a little in the Bible there on that one there, Steve.
Oh, okay. So, but he came back like he was dead for 2 days. But obviously he wasn't dead, right? Like, You know,
like take for instance, sometimes, all right, take for instance, like, I'm a diabetic, right?
yeah.
So sometimes people can go into like almost like a diabetic coma if their sugars are too low and this and that. You're in a place like Nigeria where maybe they don't have the best technology out there for in hospitals or whatever. Maybe he was in some kind of coma with slightly breathing, and they weren't able to catch that he was, he wasn't dead yet.
Right.
I'm not going to say that all of a sudden after 2 days that his soul came back into his body. I find that a little hard to believe. I believe that what it is maybe due to some kind of condition maybe the man had, or other people have done this, that all of a sudden they come back, they revive, due to, like the body kind of like restarting. And hopefully, and because that was actually one of the things, did you know that when they used to bury the dead back in the day, they would have a little bell that would be inside the casket.
Mm-hmm.
And if you weren't dead yet, because they weren't doing embalming or anything like that.
Right.
And if they were not sure that you were not dead, but they buried you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you rang that bell, someone would come a-calling,
Right.
and then they would dig back up the bodies. So, that does still happen.
So this could happen again with the same guy. Like if it's a medical condition,
Sure.
it could happen again. And then basically at some point, Jacob's not going to believe his dad's dead. He's going to be like, yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
And then they'll like,
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes it's probably just a medical condition that happens to people. And I think people were smart, actually. I think in this day and age, too, I understand that we live in America where a majority of everyone who's buried is embalmed, where it means the minute that they suck all that blood out of you and put you with all that embalming fluid, you're not coming back, brother. Unless it's a real true Day of the Dead type scenario where the Walking Dead start coming to life.
We eat so many preservatives. Did you hear that it takes longer now for, without embalming fluid? It would take longer for you to sort of to decompose these days because of all the preservatives we eat. We probably don't even need to be embalmed anymore. I mean, I eat enough junk food.
Yeah, like take, for instance, the diet sodas that are out there. I'm not going to name names of these diet sodas, but they have formaldehyde in it.
Oh, yeah, right.
And which is the part of the embalming fluid.
Right.
And people drink this, and I try to tell people, like, I don't drink. I always, every now and then I drink a little bit of a soda.
Mm-hmm.
I like a little bit of flavor, but I stay away from those diet products. Because I know what's inside those things.
Right.
But if we, I think it's a smart idea in those third world countries to have that bell, because you don't know. I'm sure it happens quite a bit more than what we're hearing on from Coast to Coast AM. By the way, that came from Coast to Coast AM, so that we can.
I hope it happens to me. I really want to surprise everybody.
Oh, imagine though is that it happens to you, but you don't wake up until you're already under the ground and on top of you.
No, I don't want to miss the party. Like when everybody's there, I just want to, hey,
everybody.
Just like when we start a podcast. Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
So I have some sad news that I want to share with you.
Oh, dear Lord.
Life's become pretty tough lately, and we're all struggling with so many things. Huh?
You okay? Everything
Yeah.
right?
There's so many things that we're struggling with, but I have one more thing that I have to share with everyone. There's going to be a beer shortage due to a looming supply of carbon dioxide. Yes, that's right, folks. Beer is next.
Oh, my God.
First,
somewhere in the world right now, Steve, someone just fell off of the back end of a bar.
I honestly think, Neal, that we're in the end times. With now beer shortages, what are we to do?
What are we to do?
I just, everybody, just try to deal with it. But yeah, carbon dioxide. But I blame climate change people for the shortage in carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide?
No, really. Like, okay, we need to stop all the carbon dioxide. There's too much carbon dioxide. There's too much carbon dioxide. What about? No, there's not too much. We have a beer shortage because of a lack of carbon dioxide. Stop the insanity, people.
Stop the insanity.
We need we need carbon dioxide for our beer.
So it's not no more save the world, save the beer, man.
Save the beer. That's right.
That's man, I hear you. And I think a lot of our viewers are going to be in total agreement with you on this one. Save the beer.
If you want to save the beer, give us a thumbs up.
Yeah, send us a thing at Neal at gravesideparanormal.com or
leave a comment in the description box.
What's that? Yeah,
leave a comment in the
Leave
description.
a comment. Feel free to leave something for us. You know what you think about the beer shortage. Steve, what are the other things that people can send it to? Neal at gravesideparanormal.com. That's Neal.
Right.
Graveside, SIDE, paranormal.com, or Steve at gravesideparanormal.com.
Yep.
Or at the Paranormal Guys podcast. Correct.
Right. We have a page on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. We do.
That's right.
You can put comments down on there.
That's right.
All right. Let's move to the next little bit of news. All right. An eerie photograph circling online may show an apparition lingering outside a building in Tennessee that once served as a Civil War hospital. The ghost of a Civil War nun captured on camera, supposedly. The home was used as an army hospital during the Civil War. Patients were operated on inside the home and then moved to the field out back, where most would die after being placed in tents. So here now, this also comes from Coast to Coast AM, which I love. Coast to Coast AM. Who doesn't love Coast to Coast AM? And I guess this actually came out a year ago, but this is actually the first time I'm seeing this. Steve, can you go to the picture of the supposed lady nun? So we pulled the photograph. The one on the left, on our left, my left, is where it's a little bit hazy, and the one on the right is a little bit more clearer. The one on the left, I believe, is the original photograph, and then someone you can see updated it. It says preview updated. And I also updated mine as well. If you look in front of the girl, Steve, bring up the photo that I updated. And it's a simple thing, ladies and gentlemen. You can go to these things when you have evidence or your supposed evidence, when you're doing investigations. These iPhones are freaking awesome. They're awesome. Steve, can you pull it up a little bit more? Is there any way of I believe we have a circle around the thing.
Yeah, let me give you this.
All right. Now, I want to show everybody something. I do not believe that that's an apparition. I do not at all. It would be transparent. You can see that there is a shadow on the ground, and that's in line with the top of the head there. I believe that's either a statue or something else. Me, personally, I do not think that that's an apparition. Don't get me wrong. There is a lot of residual hauntings that happen in Civil War sites due to traumatic things that happen in the timelines. That does happen, but this one here, I have to say, no, I do not believe that. What do you think, Steve?
You don't think that might be like a shadow person just laying on the ground?
No.
I'm just messing with you.
No, not at all.
For the hardcore believer, that's a shadow man, and that's an apparition. Now, yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, there's light. It's a solid object.
Yeah, it's totally a solid object. There is, if it was a spirit or an apparition, you would see through it. I mean, or somewhat see through it. Not maybe clearly, but somewhat. And you can totally tell by when I see what I did is I did -100 on the shadows, and you can see that there's a shadow right there on the ground. That just leads me to believe that's a solid object, no matter what that is. I don't know what it is. Kind of looks like a statue to me, but I believe that's a solid object. No apparition there.
Mm-hmm.
What do you
I agree with you,
next, Steve?
Yeah. So I got a story for you. Beyond Meat CEO goes beyond crazy. He was arrested for biting a man's nose. Tastes like chicken. What happened is COO Doug Ramsey was at a football game, and his Bronco got touched. There's Doug right there, COO of Beyond Meat. That's your vegan meat, fake meat. Well, a Subaru bumped his Bronco, and Doug here got kind of pissed off and got out of his car and smashed the window of the Subaru. And the driver of the Subaru got out, and they got into a little heated action. And Doug bit the tip of the man's nose off. So Doug got arrested for biting a man's nose tip off.
Ouch.
This is a vegan meat, right? I'm telling you, Neil. I did the vegan thing for a while. You got to eat meat because your body needs it, and I think you shouldn't go too long without eating meat because you could bite someone's nose off.
I mean,
You
well,
know,
on a serious note, do you think that you go through like changes where, like, you were vegan for a while? I remember when you and I first met.
right?
You would have me, you would have me go to a place called Gene and Jude's,
Yeah,
which is a hot dog place,
yeah,
and if not the most famous hot dog place in Chicago.
it is.
And
I think
he goes like this. He says, "Get me the vegetable one." What?
the
I go, "It's a
vegan
hot
dog.
dog place, dude."
Hmm.
He goes, "No, seriously, can you please get me that?" And I said, "All right." I go, "I'll ask." And what was odd is that they knew exactly what I was talking about. I didn't think they would. I
Right?
gave a certain name of it or something,
Yeah,
and they did that. But do you think that people, if they're not eating meat, they start to get irritable and they get angry a lot easier?
yeah. I don't know. I don't know what got into this guy. Right? I mean, they asked him, why did you do it? But he declined to comment. So I guess nobody knows.
I see how you did that. Nobody knows, man. You are good at this, boy.
See,
That
that's
boy's
right.
good.
So yeah, weird story. Hey, did you know that Beyond Meat is working on adding cricket protein into
Oh.
their burger? So you'll be eating insects.
So, all right, now hold on. It's an insect, but still a living creature. So, how are they able
It's
to do
not
that?
vegan. Yeah, it's
You know what?
so
That's weird.
yeah, it is weird. I believe they were using like pea protein before, but now they're going to go into crickets. And like, I'm not
Oh,
eating bugs.
no, no. We
No,
already got enough bugs in our regular food as it is. We don't need to know that we have crickets.
there's something called chitin that's inside of like insects, like crickets. Crickets and cockroaches are kind of similar. They have chitin. Grasshoppers have it too. It's the same thing that's in shrimp, and people are allergic to it. And actually, the human gut can't digest chitin, or is it called chitin? But yeah. So anyway, um, don't get the Beyond Meat.
No, I wasn't going to ever try that. But look at the big brain on you, dude. I would never even think of that. I mean, where do you get these things? You and your big brain.
YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that YouTube is great. But let's get on to something important. So,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen, we did a video before we get to our guest, Laura. We did a video, and we do these little commercials and stuff. We did a place called Mount Olivet Cemetery, which is in the Mount Greenwood area of Chicago, where we actually do a lot of our little promotion videos. And we were talking about the new tour that we have this year called Monk's Tour. You're going to hear in this video, we didn't do anything to this video. We actually, because we always look over everything right after we do it. And you can hear this chanting, or I don't know what to even.
Something in the background.
Yeah, you can hear it in the background. It's a sound. I think it says monks. So I'm gonna leave it to you, ladies and gentlemen, to go ahead and listen. Steve, if you could roll it.
Go.
Hey, this is Neal with Graveside Paranormal Investigative Tours. Now, this October, we have a lot of new tours coming up. Our brand new Monks Tour, which will be coming on the 22nd, the 28th, and the 29th for the first time ever. The gates of St. James Cemetery, otherwise known as Monk's Castle, is going to be open to us to tell you all the wonderful, scary stories of that cemetery, as well as all our other tours, like our nightlife tour. So come on out, and let's have a good time, and boom.
So you start hearing it more closer to the end.
Yeah.
And I do recommend people put on headphones. I mean, I can hear it clearly sitting at my desk right now, but it is very odd. There was nothing around us. It was a cemetery. There was no other things going on. No burials. No nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very odd. I mean, me and Steve.
We get that wherever we go.
Yeah.
Like we're always hearing we're very fortunate as investigators. We are always finding something. And I think it's probably got to do with the energy we put out or something. I don't know. But our team in general, we find a lot of stuff. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah, you know what? And you're right about that. Sometimes I'm not surprised, but we both look at each other and go, "What in the heck is that?" And it is, and it almost sounds like the thing that Steve made, the Anahata Spirit Portal Box, which is a spirit box. It almost sounds like that, but we did not have that out there that day.
No.
But well, that's it with the weird news and the other things that are going on. So we're going to be right back after these messages, and we're going to be bringing on Miss Laura González, and we are going to be talking about the Day of the Dead, and also, boys and girls, Happy Halloween.
Ooh, Happy Halloween.
Hey, boils and ghouls, it's spooky season again, and Graveside Paranormal is ready to give you the best tours that we can give you. Come on out this year, starting on October 8th, and we have a special tour coming out. Other than our nightlife tour, we have the Monks tour, which will be on the 22nd, the 28th, and 29th for the first time ever. Monks Gates is going to be opened up for us, and we're going to be able to go in there and tell you all the wonderful, scary stories. So come on out if you want to have a good time and get a little spooky. Boo.
And now, back to the Paranormal Guys podcast.
All right, we are back. Once again, Happy Halloween, everybody. And we're going to bring in our guest right now, Laura González, sorry, pardon me. Laura, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm all right. Did you go out do your trick-or-treating?
Of course, I went scaring kids. That's my favorite part of the
Nice.
Do you have a certain costume that you wear to scare the kids?
You know what? My favorite costume, I guess, because I'm a big girl, I'm a fat girl, and I love, I hate bugs. I am a bug phobic witch, which is weird. And my favorite costume is a bumblebee.
Oh,
really?
Nice.
So I wear the bumblebee, but I put on a crown, so I'm the queen bee.
Nice.
That's my favorite one. But I have, I've done the Katrina, which is like the Day of the Dead quintessential one, the famous one. Mm-hmm. And I've done other stuff. But the bumblebee is my favorite.
The favorite? All right. So, Laura, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a tarot card reader.
Yes, sir.
And other than telling us about yourself, tell us what got you into doing what you're doing.
Well, I basically got into doing what I do because I keep guessing the future. I'm a psychic. Consider myself a natural born psychic, and I will predict people's future. And my whole life, I would wonder, like, why do I have this ability? Why can I see stuff? What is the purpose? And when I was a teenager, I met a tarot card reader, and she told me, you should be doing card readings and helping people heal. Mm. And I started learning the and I've been reading ever since. 33 years by now. Professionally, for about 15. Yeah.
Yeah. So you see premonitions of future to come.
I have, when you have the list of abilities, of psychic abilities, I check almost all of them. Mm-hmm. I have precognition. I have olfactory sensitivity. I have audio sensitivity. I have visuals. I have dreams, and et cetera, et cetera. I am very sensitive to energy, and I get to see like bizarre things that are going to happen. And, sometimes I'm able to tell people before they happen, and sometimes it's after the fact. So it's called post-cognition.
Yeah.
And, I do a lot of that. And
so, Laura, I've talked to a lot of women who have these gifts, right? And many of them say that there's like a lineage, or like, the women in their family have that gift. Do you have like a lineage of people with a similar ability?
I believe that all people have the ability. That is like vocal cords. I think everybody can talk, unless you don't have vocal cords, of course. But I think certain people have more of an affinity or a natural talent, if you will. Mm-hmm. Like there was just one Freddie Mercury, rest in peace. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's more like an ability. And however, yes, my mom had the ability, and my dad acquired the ability. So, it's both ways. And I think I inherit both of them.
So maybe he had a latent, it was latent inside of him. And then through your mother, he learned. And that's why I try to explain to a lot of people is that we all have this inside of us. Some of us are just very, like, I'm a sensitive. I hear voices
Mhm.
and I get impressions. And Steve will tell you a lot of weird things have happened when we go out to a lot of places that we
I'm
go.
watching this ability evolve in Neal. Like when we started going out places, he didn't really present a whole lot of psychic ability. But
Mm-hmm.
the more we do these things, it's uncanny.
Yeah.
He'll just start getting like it's developing in him. And I'm curious, like, you know, like with your father and how he developed it. Is it just from being around people who have the gift or by practicing it?
I believe that there are, I believe that it's like a muscle. And
Mm-hmm.
the more you do it, the more you practice, the more you get in touch with whatever it is that you call that. I call it source or divine or God.
Right.
And I think once you learn how it presents to you, then you learn how to recognize it. I, for one, have very bizarre thoughts. And the most bizarre the thought, the most accurate the prediction.
Hmm.
About a month ago, we have a terrible earthquake in Mexico, right? It was bad. It was scary. I knew that was going to happen. Like when Mexican Independence Day, September 16, I knew it was going to happen. And I said, we're going to have an earthquake in Mexico. It's going to be September 19th again. And then I immediately dismissed it because I'm like, that is such bizarre thought. And lo and behold, we had the earthquake on September 19th, which is historical because it's been 3 years that on September 19th in Mexico, we have bad earthquakes. So do as I say, not as I do. When you recognize how your ability presents to you, don't dismiss it. You know, I know with me it's bizarre thoughts. Sometimes people hear things or they have like a loud pitch and they know that that is when they're hearing energy. Sometimes people get cold and that's when the bizarre thoughts or premonitions come. And what I tell my apprentices is just continue, learn your cues, and the more you embrace it and the more you practice, the more that you can get it. And then there are practices, you know, like trying to guess cards or trying to guess numbers or telling a person to think about something and then you try to guess about what they're thinking, stuff like that. I truly believe that people can acquire it and then grow it.
Yeah, and I'm in total agreement with you. There's people who are just naturally have these abilities, and then there's people like I always explain to it like this: think of yourself as a football player. Say you're the best football player on the team, right? You have these natural abilities, but don't just expect it always to happen. You still have to work hard to get that position on the football
Yeah.
team.
Yeah.
So, but everybody who's on the football team can get these abilities through hard work. It's latent inside of a lot of people.
Yeah.
For me, when I start to get certain things that happen, it's like I start to get like this dizziness, this feeling that something is there, but it's usually like a lightheadedness, and then I'll hear voices, and it'll talk to me. I'll hear my name called. Steve's had it happen. We've had a lot of weird things happen, but everybody, it's something that can be worked on. Yes, but some people are just born with it, and I don't like to use it as the word gift
I don't either.
because it's something that is just, I believe it's part of someone's DNA, their lineage, as Steve would call. And I don't think it's some gift from up above. I think it's just something that a lot of us are just have. We just got to pay attention to these things.
Yeah. I call it ability. It's an
Yeah.
ability, you know, it's a capacity, if you will. And it's like the ability of knitting or painting or singing, you know, you have an ability. And then if you practice and you strengthen the muscle, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and then you find, and then you recognize what you need to do, like an athlete, like you said, you know. I couldn't throw a ball if you pay me $1,000,000, but I bet you if I practice, I could learn, right?
Sure.
So I think it's the same. You know, am I going to be as good as a naturally talented athlete? Probably not, but I should be able to get by.
You got the concept.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. All right. So that brings us into the main thing that I want to talk about. It's Halloween. And on the November 2nd and 3rd, it's going to be the Day of the Dead. So I want you to take us into this. Tell us the origin of the Day of the Dead and what goes on these days.
So first of all, I'm going to tell you how I learned about it. I was doing a presentation for school when I was a very early teenage, actually 12 years old. And I told my teachers, this comes from the Aztecs. It's an indigenous tradition. And my teachers, who were older folks like I am now, they were telling me like, no, 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 you're wrong because you're a kid. So you're wrong. And that's not truth. And that sparked some kind of passion into me. And then my whole life I dedicate to teach people about it. I have dedicated and will continue educating people. So the so-called Aztecs, that's not the correct name. We're not going to go into that. The Aztecs have a calendar, and that calendar has 18 months of 20 days. 2 of those months are dedicated to the dead. They are harvesting time. They are the ending of the rain season. And they were months that were dedicated to the people who died. So the one month was called the Huemicaihuitl, and the other one was called the Micahuitontli. Those names, you're not going to find them, and they're really hard to repeat, so don't try. And it was 40 days celebrated to harvest, first to the flowering, the late bloom flowers, and then the harvesting of the fruit. And they utilize the metaphor of flower, seed, and fruit to talk about the evolution of human life. When you're a seed that you're planted, and then you grow and bloom, and then you either give fruit or you will wither away and go back into the earth and give more seed.
Mm-hmm.
Through that metaphor, they will celebrate those who passed. And the first month will be for the little seeds. It will be for the seedlings, for the little sprouts. So you'll celebrate the young dead. And there was 20 days of celebration, remembering those who died before 13 years of age. And then the second 20-day period will be dedicated to the older folks like us, and then older seniors. And when the colonizers came, the conquistadors, they came with their religion, Catholic religion, that had all kinds of pagan DNA. They had already learned about Samhain and the pagan celebrations for harvesting time, and had integrated that into Catholicism. So the Catholicism that came to Mexico had pagan DNA, and they see our indigenous people doing the celebrations, which they recognize, or they thought they recognized as pagan, and obviously first condemned it, and then tried to convert people, and then they genocide and all of that. But the people who were alive, they were still celebrating because this is one of our major holidays. So because they couldn't quench the thirst of us celebrating the dead, they did what they did to the pagans in Europe, and they moved the holiday to All Hallows Eve and All Saints Day. And that's how we went from 40 days to 2 days. And that is one of the ways that is done in central Mexico. But there are different traditions, and there are different ways of celebrating throughout all of Mexico and even Central and South America. But the most famous one, or the one that took more over, was the Mexican way, or the so-called Aztec way. And that, combined with the Catholicism, obviously, now you have what we now call Day of the Dead. And it's 2 days of celebration. And it's funny because we call it Day of the Dead, but it's 2 days.
2 days,
But nobody say Days of the Dead. And if you say in Spanish, we say Dia de Muertos. We don't say Dia de los Muertos. That is an accident of translation when you translate Dia de Muertos to English and then translate back to Spanish, it add that los. So when somebody is not from Mexico, they will say, "Oh yeah, Dia de los Muertos." They're like, "No, you're not legit."
You're not legit.
Yeah, that is already translated back and forth. And there are legends about life's creation all throughout the cosmogony of the indigenous people of Mexico. And one of them talks about the history of Quetzalcoatl stealing the bones from the underworld to create humans, because the gods have created humanity 4 times and it failed. They don't know how to make good humans. So to make the fifth son, the fifth generation, Quetzalcoatl, the god of life, goes to the underworld to meet Mictlantecutli and Mictecacihuatl, and he steals the bones of the ancestors. And as he comes running out of the underworld, he trips and falls and throws the bag of bones, and they get mixed. So he just quickly, puts them back in a bag and takes them to one of the goddesses. I think it's Cihuateteo. And she puts the bones on a cauldron, and those come humans, right? Us, the fifth son, the fifth generation. But because the bones were mixed, some humans are tall, some are short, some are thick, some are thin, some are dark skinned, some are light skinned, because all the bones got mixed up. I love that legend because it explains diversity and humanity. And it also explains how, in order to have life, you have to dig for the bones. You have to go for what was dead, So for us Mexicans, Day of the Dead, yes, we celebrate the ancestors. Yes, we mourn on a very healthy way the people that have passed. It's not Mexican Halloween.
Right.
It's not Mexican Halloween. It has nothing to do with Halloween. It's an ancient tradition that goes back probably 3,000 years or more. And it's about celebrating harvest, the cycles of life and death. And it's about celebrating the people that passed on before us. And I think because we collectively, as a culture, the Mexicans, it is such a huge celebration every year. I don't think any of us are afraid of dying, because we know it's a party.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it's completely different. We don't hide from the spirits. We welcome them.
Right.
So you see these huge altars and offerings and all the color and all the traditions, now amalgamated with Catholicism and even paganism. And we invite, so people in Mexico, you have diversity on beliefs and creeds, and you have your atheists and you have your whatever. Everybody believes that the dead come that day. And so you decorate the altars, you decorate the cemeteries, you bring food, you bring toys for the little ones, you bring the mariachi or the musicians, you bring alcohol, and it's a huge party because they're here for 2 days.
Remembrance.
And then they're gone. And then they go back and bye-bye, see you next year.
Yeah, I love that. And a lot of people, they really don't realize is that the Catholic Church, adopted a lot of these pagan beliefs. Reason why is because they needed people to come in to the church. Yep. Same thing with like Santa Claus and stuff like that. Santa Claus is a pagan belief. Okay, so but you have to find something that's going to be able to bring you in, parishioners. So you have to compromise, And I love the story about the bones. It just shows that it shows the diversity of, there's different things, different sizes of bones, different colors of bones. One might be older than the other one, might be younger than the other. One might be thicker than the other one. But no matter what, we are all together in that big bag.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
A big cauldron where she is, and then of course the I told you the legend in like a minute, right? It's a beautiful legend. It's a beautiful myth that if you find it, please read it. But I give you the 1-minute version. But
yeah,
it says there that he takes the bones to this goddess, and again I think it's Cihuateteo. And then it says the legend that he gives his life essence. What is the life essence? Is it blood? Is it water? Is it something else that comes from man? I don't know.
Right.
What we know is you have a life essence liquid, you have a chalice or a cauldron, and a goddess that is mixing it all to
Right.
make life.
Yeah.
You know,
Is it-
Laura, I think what's interesting, you said this is the in the legend, right? It's the fifth
Sun.
son. Is there more? Like I know, like it's probably a long story, and we wouldn't be able to get into it all. But I'm curious, like to learn more about like the first, second, third, and fourth as well. Is there
So,
information out there about that?
oh yeah, oh yeah. So the first were die by water, and they
Hmm.
converted into fish. The second were giants, and they were eaten by tigers. The third were consumed by fire, and they turned into wild turkeys. And the fourth, it was a tornado that killed them, and they turned into monkeys. So I like the fact that they all die by one element, but they turn into something else. So the life continues.
Right.
And then we are the fifth generation. We are the fifth son. That finally we stick, because all the other humans were defective.
Right.
And I wonder if this also talks about different like ice ages and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But it's fascinating. It's really fascinating. And what I'm sharing with you is what is known now as Aztec. That is
Aztec.
like from central Mexico. But there are about 80 some or probably 100 different ethnias in Mexico. What is geopolitically Mexico? And each pueblo, each tribe, if you will, have different mythologies,
Hmm.
but they all speak about different generations, and they all somehow coincide or have very similar death culture. And it's not seen as something that is scary,
Hmm.
but it's also what I find about Day of the Dead. As I'm a healer, obviously, I find it very cathartic that we prepare for the holiday, and then the day off we commune with them, we share with them,
Mhm.
and then we let them go.
Hmm.
you know so it is very in your face, the process of dying and birth and dying and birth. It's so in your face in the Mexican culture that we don't water it down, we don't whitewash it, we don't shy away from it. We wear skulls all the time, and
Sure. Yeah.
it's
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. What culture is it that actually digs up the bodies? Have you heard about this?
yeah, there I
And
know
they
there is.
celebrate the bodies and then they rebury them.
Yeah, I think there's one in southwestern Mexico, like Merida or something like that. I'm not quite sure. And I know there's some in South America and definitely in the Philippines, which also had a lot of Spanish, conquistador Spanish from Spain culture. But I know there are some in Mexico that do it too. I'm just not very familiar with that because, again, I'm from Mexico City, so
Right.
kind
And
of
then
tough
there's
on that.
another thing where like people will take like certain inhibitants, like either drugs or something like that to try to have spirits enter inside them. Are you familiar with that at all?
I am familiar, but I will skip commenting about that because those areas in Mexico are being devastated by spiritual tourism that is just not respecting the areas or the culture,
Hmm.
and they're destroying the natural resources.
Really?
Yeah, it's terrible. It is horrible because they're going these plants that you eat in order to go into those trances. These are plants that take 40 to 60 years to grow,
Hmm.
and there is a limited amount of plants that you can unearth. And people from the United States and other countries, European countries, are going to Mexico, taking the plants without knowledge, without reverence for the earth or the culture, appropriating the culture, and is they're gonna make it extinct. I hope not, but
Well, let
that's
me
where
ask you
we're
this.
going towards.
Have you ever seen anyone who is underneath using this inhibitor? Uh, and do you feel that it's actually reaching out to a part in our brain that we are able to reach out to the dead or the non-living?
I think it is a connection that we have forgotten, and that plant helps you remember. Because we all come from somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And the actual word religion means religare, which is reconnect. So we forgot.
Can it be done without the plant?
Some people claim to have done it without plants. Through meditation, through tantric sex, through
kind of like what we were talking about earlier. If like a muscle that you exercise, if you practice it, maybe.
And I know somebody who is my very dear friend who facilitates some of these sacred plant ceremonies, and they have shared with me their stories and their experiences, and it's something out of this world, but it's all happening inside.
Now, is that, and part of my ignorance, is it that thought of as like black magic?
No, that is actually curanderismo. That is traditional healing. Okay. So those are the things that Maria Sabina used to do, and Pachita, and all other Mexican curanderas that are like super famous. But it all went downhill because the Beatles got a hold of Maria Sabina and knew about the magic mushrooms, and went there, and then they told all their hippie friends, and it all went downhill from there.
Those damn Beatles, man, they ruined it for everybody.
It was Yoko.
I mean, I love what a beautiful kind of music came out of that. So
yeah, right, a lot of good music. Yeah. Well, with that being said, we have a segment that we're bringing out right now, Into the Shadows with Shell. Steve, roll it.
Attention, all lost souls. It's time to get into the shadows with Shell.
The Thinning of the Veil by Joanne Newton. I wonder if you know about the thinning of the veil. Some say it's just for Halloween, a ghostly old wives' tale. I hope it is a place to meet between your world and mine. For me, to be a child again, a chance to turn back time. I may have missed you touch my hair and tuck my quilt in tight. Perhaps you just peeked through the door to whisper, "Love, good night." If you could come back once a year, I know you wouldn't fail. So I wonder if you know about the thinning of the veil. A meeting place of memory where love will always flow. I fell asleep and waited, but I guess you didn't know. I pray that I will hear you whisper to me once again. The veil will thin once more next year, so I can wait till then. Happy Halloween, ghouls and booze.
And now, back to the Paranormal Guys podcast.
All right. Thanks, Michelle, for that wonderful poem. We do truly appreciate it. That is Michelle, one of our best girls with Graveside Paranormal, as well as the Paranormal Guys podcast. All right. Back to Laura. Laura. Now, I know I did not pronunciate this correctly, so if you have to help me along again, I do apologize. So I'm going to try it right now. Let's hear the story of La Llorona.
No.
Did I say it kind of better?
La Llorona?
La Llorona.
Yeah, almost.
La Llorona.
But don't worry about the name. What you have to worry is to make sure that if you hear this, ¡ay, mis hijos! Run.
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 You gotta run, boy.
You gotta run. So it is one of those like super famous Mexican mythologies, history, scary story, whatever you want to call it. And there's many very different versions of it, but the one that I find most accurate in again central Mexico, this girl, this young indigenous woman, her name is Maria, and we're talking about post-colonization, right? Post invasion. And now you have the colonizers and the descendants of the colonizers living in Mexico. And then are still a lot of us indigenous people still living in Mexico. And she falls in love with this guy. And this guy, give her a lot of sweet nothings. And they start doing the thing, they go out together, they go and pick berries and do their thing and fall in love. And they really are very enamored. They really are into each other. So much so that they start having babies. They have first one child, and she has these children out of wedlock, and then they have another child. And of course, he's a white Spanish man, and she's a indigenous Mexican woman. And eventually she keeps asking, like, hey, when are we going to get married? When are we going to do this thing the right way? And he keeps telling her, tomorrow, maybe next month, maybe later, blah, blah. And what happens is he gets married to a caste white Spanish woman that is brought from the colonizer's land into Mexico. So when Maria finds out that he marries this Spanish woman from Spain, she loses her mind. She really goes crazy. The pain is so much. She cannot bear it. And she grabs her two kids and she goes to the lake and she drowns her kids.
Oh my.
And then she drowns herself.
Hmm.
And because she died in such state of mind, obviously, by the time she comes back, now she's a spirit. Her body is no longer existent, but she don't have her kids. And so she is wandering around all over Mexico looking for her kids. And her cry is such, ay, mis hijos, ¿dónde están mis hijos? Where are my kids?
Right.
And it is wailing. It comes from the gut, because I don't wish that to anybody. Think about losing your children. And she don't remember what happened. She don't know what happened. All she knows is that she don't have her kids.
Yeah, and supposedly she goes around and she finds other children, and if they look like her kids, she kills them. Am I correct?
Some stories, some versions of the story talk about you don't go near bodies of water at night because she will come and she will drown you. Other stories are because, like everything, right? She's evolved with time. So now she cautions girls not to be outside giving their love to boys that are not worthy of it. And some other versions are about, what are you all doing so late at night outside? You need to be home with your mama. So, she comes.
You think it was actually based off of probably putting together a morality story for young kids?
Arnold tells that kind of thing, I truly believe every tale has a part that is reality, right? That is truth. And I think, unfortunately, with the colonizers, I think a lot of the stories are truth, because a lot of women were raped, and the ones that were not raped, they were coerced, with stories
Seduced.
and seduced.
Yeah.
With promises. And I mean, give it to a colonizer mind that says, we're going to erase your kind, but also you are our descendants. So which is it? And there's a lot of us who believe that might have some mixed blood in us. And a lot of us who say, oh no, I'm pure. You still have, to this day, you still have people in Mexico who claim to have pure Spanish blood. That they came from Spain and they're descendants of colonizers. And then you have people like me that I don't think I have one drop of blood, because look at this hair. I mean, I think I believe I'm more like Afro-Mexican than anything else, but who knows? I don't know, and I'm not doing.
Yeah, I think in this day and age, by now, I think everybody's had a little taste of everybody. So
Yeah,
that's the best way I could put it.
and our ancestors just wanted to get busy.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Some
Yeah.
people they just go, okay, maybe tonight. Never
Yeah,
know.
yeah, you're cute,
Yeah.
but definitely is definitely one of the scariest stories in Mexico, and is definitely something that your mama will tell you when you're out. Like, make sure you don't go out when La Llorona's out there because she's gonna get you.
She's gonna get you, boy.
Yeah, yeah. You come
Mhm.
back, run. You
See,
come back.
I love that story. I actually watched the movie that came out. I don't know if did you watch the movie? It came out a couple of years ago, and now I only caught the tail end of the movie. But that tail end of the movie, I was like, damn.
Yeah,
Like
What?
she was stealing the girl's kids. I said, man.
yeah,
And she was like, stay away from my kids.
yeah.
And she had to make her realize that those are not her kids.
And then the curandero that came to do the cleansing, I was like, yep, very legit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Now you have another story for us.
Oh my God, I love this one. So you bring me, you're taking me down to memory lane. This happened when I was a very young witch. I must have been 15, 16. And I grew up in the 80s. So I had this radio turntable. And the buttons, the knobs, they were like big, chunky.
Mhm.
And I had to get up in the morning, get ready for school. And it was like, 5 o'clock in the morning. Everybody else is sleeping. And I'm listening to Spanish rock because I love Spanish rock. So I'm listening to Spanish rock, and then the station starts changing stations, and I'm like, what the hell? But being me, I'm like, whatever, because I'm used to all this kind of situations. And this keep happening like maybe 2-3 times a week that I'm listening to my Spanish rock, and the station keeps moving and switching, and sometimes it's just white noise, and sometimes it will change to like ranchero music or romantic music, and I'm like, what the hell? So one time, I'm thinking I'm gonna outsmart this entity, and I play a cassette tape, and the little buttons that you had to push the button.
Yeah. Play, reverse.
So I push play, and I even because I'm cocky now, so I'm like, what you gonna do? And then it stops. And I'm like, my cassette must be, tangled or whatever.
Mhm.
No, the pause button was down. And I'm like, oh, okay. Thank you.
Interesting.
And I went to school, and another couple of weeks go by, and it keeps happening. It either pauses it or changes the station. So one day we're having dinner, and I'm sitting here. My mom is sitting here, and my sister is sitting in front of me. And right on the corner, we have another turntable and a lot of cassette tapes piled up on top of each other. Not in a rack or anything, just piled up on top of each other. And then I'm telling the story. I'm telling my mom, I'm telling my sister, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell this ghost wants because it keeps bothering me with my music. I use different language. I say, it keeps screwing with my music, and I'm tired of it. And my sister, who has never believed in any of this, she starts telling me, you're crazy, and I think you make these things up. And how come nothing ever happens when we're around? And the music stopped. So we all look at the cassette tapes, and one of the cassette tapes that is on the pile does this and then falls on the floor.
Wow.
And then we all proceeded to soil ourselves. It was so scary. And then I am mad at my sister because, see what you make it do. And I get up and I'm like, okay, so you want to listen to this? We're going to listen to it. And of course, it's kind of like salsa music, the kind of music that back then, I'm 16, I'm a rocker. I'm not going to listen to that ever. It was one of my mom's old salsa music tapes. And I said to it very loudly, like, I'm going to play this. We all gonna enjoy it,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's it. And we put the cassette tape. We were dancing. We were singing. We were having a good time. It played the whole one side. I turned it around. It played the whole side, and that was it.
That was it. That was all.
That was all. It just wanted to have a little party, and we had a party with it, and it stopped bothering us.
That's good. That's good. That's a nice story.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Laura, I appreciate you coming on tonight. And I hope you have continued a happy Halloween. And on the Day of the Dead, you enjoy the celebration.
Yes.
Do you have anything that you would like to plug for yourself?
Well, I have my practice. I'm a tarot reader. I'm a professional tarot reader, and I would like to invite everybody that if you need your cards read, this is the time. Still, so look for me on Calendly as Tarot by Laura. And if you want to do your year-end reading, as we approach the end of the year, civilian end of the year, I will have specials. So follow me on Instagram, Magia Cerati. Follow me on Facebook as Tarot by Laura González, or find me on, like I say, on Calendly as Tarot by Laura, and we can do readings. And I'm always doing pop-up events now that fall and winter is coming. It might not be as busy as it has been, but we're gonna be doing special offers for the year end on tarot reading, so a little discount. And just follow me, and you can find me everywhere. I am also a podcaster. Neal, you didn't know this, but I'm also a podcaster. I podcast about paganism, neo-paganism, magic, and all that kind of stuff. So you can find me. My podcast is called Lunatic Mondays, Lunes Lunáticos. I do bilingual. And I also produce a Spanish Portuguese one that I don't conduct. And it's called Paganos del Mundo. And you can find us all on wherever you find your podcast.
Wow.
All right. Laura, I appreciate you coming on today. That is Laura. She does tarot card readings. And of course, she told us all about the Day of the Dead. And there's a lot more that you can learn from Laura by going to all the sites that she talked to you about. So feel free to go out to her. I see her a lot actually on Facebook. I see her doing a lot of the tarot card reading on Facebook. So you're always on there. Sometimes you go on Jack's thing, the Paranormal Chicago. I see you on that one as well. That you just pop up there every now and then. So once again, I thank you, and I want to wish everybody a happy Halloween.
Yep.
Steve, you got anything to say?
This is a very interesting episode. Enjoy the Day of the Dead. Enjoy the rest of your Halloween. And like as always,
boys and girls, boo.
Boo.